Now what about after Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? We have discussed some ta'ah during the lifetime of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What about after him? After him there can be two conditions theoretically. Either there is the system of Khilafah, ala minhaj an-nubuwwah, Caliphate in the footsteps of the prophethood. Or you may call it in the modern terminology an Islamic state. What is an Islamic state? Where it is expressly written in the constitution that sovereignty belongs to Allah and no legislation can be done here repugnant to the book of Allah and the sunnah of His Prophet. Without any exception, all matters will come under the jurisdiction of the book of Allah and the sunnah of His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If this is written, now this becomes an Islamic state. Then you have to have the same relationship of sam wa ta'ah with the head of the state. With one difference only. Let me discuss that one difference only. What's the difference of sam wa ta'ah with Rasul and the sam wa ta'ah for anybody else after Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What is that difference? The sam wa ta'ah, listen and obey, for the Messenger of Allah is absolute. Whatever he commands regarding deen, you have to obey. You have no option. Just as I quoted the ayah, ما كان لمؤمن ولا مؤمنة إذا قضى الله ورسوله أمرا أن يكون لهم الخيرة من أمرهم. No option, no choice whatsoever. His word, his verdict, final. But for nobody after him, there is absolute sam wa ta'ah. The sam wa ta'ah will be limited within the injunctions of the Sharia. You are nobody to declare anything haram or declare anything halal. It was the prerogative of Allah and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The deen has been completed. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum al-islam deena. Now there's nobody who can decide and who could declare something to be haram and something to be halal. That thing has been completed. Within these limits of halal or haram that have been laid down by the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Prophet, yes, within the circle, within the limits, yes, we shall listen and obey. That is what we call sam'u ta'ah fil ma'roof. Ma'roof according to and within the limits of the Sharia. That is why when there was bay'ah for Abu Bakr, for Umar, always it was fil ma'roof. Abu Bakr said after his bay'ah of Khilafah, if I go on the right path, it's your duty and farz that you obey me. And if I go on the wrong path, it's your duty and farz to rectify me, to correct me. Because infallibility has come to an end with the end of the institution of prophethood. No person after Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is infallible. No Imam, no Khalifa. If Abu Bakr was not infallible, Umar was not infallible, Usman was not infallible, Ali was not infallible, who else can claim to be infallible? There can be errors. So actually now please note, the most profound ayah of the Quran on this subject is ayah number 59 of Surah An-Nisa. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul wa ulil amri minkum. Fa in tanaza'tum fi shay'in farudduhu ila Allah wa Rasul in kuntum tu'minuna billahi wal yawmil akhir. Zalika khairun wa ahsanu ta'wila. O you who profess to believe, obey Allah and obey His Messenger and your leaders, people at the helm of affairs from amongst you, not the Kafirs, not the non-Muslims, Ulul amri minkum, people who are at the helm of affairs from amongst you. And if there is any dispute, if a person who is the Amir, who is the Khalifa, who is the head of the Islamic State, he says something and you say no, it's wrong, according to Sharia, this should be the opinion. فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي أَمْرٍ, if there is any difference of opinion regarding any matter, رُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ, then the decision will be taken from Allah and His Messenger. That is, only two arguments are tenable, either from the book of Allah or from the practice of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No third argument. Because permanent obedience is to Allah and the Messenger only. Absolute and permanent obedience for Allah and His Messenger. That is why the word ati'u has been repeated. Ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul. But the third time this ati'u has not been repeated. Wa ulil amri minkum, because it is conditional. The obedience to the ulil amr, people at the helm of affairs, is conditional. It is necessary obedience to them if it is within the Sharia, the limits of the Sharia, otherwise not. فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ إِن كُنتُمْ تُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ وَأَحْسَنُ تَأْوِيلًا. Now what does this mean? Please prepare for the shock. It is going to be shocking for you. It is haram for a Muslim to live in a country where the people at the helm of affairs are not Muslims. Whom are you obeying? You are permitted to obey Allah and His Messenger. Wa ulul amri minkum. People at the helm of affairs from amongst you. Then we read in the very first ayah of this surah, Lahul mulk, yusabbihu lillahi ma fi samawati wa ma fil ard, lahul mulk wa lahul hamd. Sovereignty belongs to Him alone. So living in a country where sovereignty belongs to somebody else. Sovereignty belongs to the people, not to Allah. That is why they can decide that two males can marry. They'll be recognized as husband and wife. Because it's the majority vote that has to decide. No reference to Allah, no reference to the Messenger of Allah, no reference to the Sharia. It is haram. So what's the makhraj? What's the way out? What's the exit? There's the exit, written in red words. It's a dilemma. Must be some outlet, some exit. The exit is, if you are living in a society or a state in which sovereignty is not for Allah, in which the law of Sharia is not supreme, you can live there only if you are exerting to your utmost to uproot the system and establish the sovereignty of Allah there. If you are working for that, if you are living for that and you are ready to die for that, then it is halal. Otherwise it is haram. You might not be taking haram meat, but every breath that you are taking is haram. You are living in a society and you have taken the citizenship by declaring an on oath that you are faithful to this constitution. And this constitution, and this pertains not only to United States. We in Pakistan are especially fortunate that at least in the constitution it has been written that sovereignty belongs to Allah, although we are not practicing it. But still I can say that I am living in a country in which the constitution is saying that sovereignty belongs to Allah here. It is there written. in the objectives resolution. And now that objectives resolution has become an integral part of the Constitution. Article 2A of the Constitution. It declares sovereignty belongs to Allah. And all authority that we have is delegated authority, not our own. And this authority is to be used within the limits prescribed by the real sovereign, that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is there in the Constitution. I don't know any other country in the world, not even Saudi Arabia, where the Constitution declares the sovereignty belongs to Allah. Anyhow, please understand these things. If you are living in a country or a society or a state where the word of Allah is not supreme, the law of Sharia is not supreme, sovereignty is not accepted for Allah, then you are, so to say, at constant war with that society. And you have to struggle continuously to change the system and establish the system of Caliphate in the footsteps of the prophethood. And for that, you must have a party. A revolution can be brought about by a party, not a single individual. Now that samota will be for the Amir of that party, which has been founded only with the sole aim of changing the basic system and establishing the deen of Allah. An aqimu ad-deen wa la tatafarraqu fihi. Establish the deen of Allah. You might not succeed in doing it, but if you have put in what you can, if you have done your job, if you have done your bit, if you have spent for the cause of Allah, whatever you have, well, you will be successful, declared successful on the day of judgment. So this is the sam'uta. Sam'uta, number one, for Allah. Number two, for Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When the Prophet was living in this world, he was the head of the state, he was the Chief Justice, he was the Commander-in-Chief, and he was the Messenger of Allah also. After him, only two conditions can be there. Either there is an Islamic state, there is the system of Caliphate in the footsteps of prophethood, or there is some secular system, popular sovereignty or kingship or something else, some sort. Then there, you know, if a mu'min is living, the only halal way of living is to be in continuous struggle against that system and endeavoring to the maximum, exerting to the utmost, spending everything that he has to change the system and establish the deen of Allah, or according to the biblical words, to establish the kingdom of heaven on earth. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heavens. For this purpose you must have a party, and now you must have your oath of allegiance, of samota with the head of that party.